What is up, YouTube? Today we are doing Ask Diaphone, and that's a sentence I haven't said in a while because it's been quite a while since we've done an Ask Diaphone. This is where if you join the Discord, link in the description below, and you ask a question to Ask Diaphone channel, I will answer your question eventually. It's been a bit, and we have quite a bit of backlog. So with that being said, let's get to it. Actually doing anti-airs. I've mainly been playing Street Fighter 6 with a bit of Tekken and Guilty Gear in all games. I constantly practice anti-airs, especially on Street Fighter 6. But so I always see a jump but never register it, right? So this is basically like you need to do better drills. So I think a lot of people, they practice the input for anti-air and they maybe record the dummy jumping and they're like, oh, I'm so good at anti-airing, and then they get into a match and they're like, well, fuck, I can't actually execute, right? So yes, it does take time, but realistically, you need to make your drills harder. That's 100% of what it is. If you make your drills harder and make it so that it's like more representative of actual match, so like the dummy jumps at random times, and there's other stuff like in Street Fighter 6, they have to like DI or they do some other neutral skip that you have to like perfect parry. If you have like multiple things to focus on, it'll help you automate your response to jump when you don't have the mental stack in order to do that. So make your drills harder. That's number one easiest way to do. And yeah, it looks like he's like kind of trying that, but yeah, if you can stop all DI, DR, and forward jump, to me, it's like you need to make it so like the startups are less disguised, because like if they all happen at different times, then it's really easy to like kind of trick yourself into thinking you have it. So it's all about like setting your drills up properly. Getting a lot of a little. Long-time casual player. Plenty of responsibilities that take up my week, so I don't have a lot of time. My question is, how would you recommend spending my time with improvement in mind if I only have 60 minutes of playtime in a given day? It's tough, right? So obviously improvement scales with time, and to me, I think you're asking like, how can I use that time more efficiently, right? And to me, time is like efficiency is like a times multiplier, right? So let's say if you have the proper training and you have the like proper mindset, you can, in my opinion, you can achieve like a 2x, 3x multiplier on your time. But 3x 30 minutes a day is only an hour and a half, right? And an hour and a half a day still won't get you to top level, but it can get you pretty far. So just one, like obviously have the expectation in mind is that even with like the best advice and the best training regimen, it's kind of hard to like completely gap a large difference in playtime, but you can gap some of it, right? With like experience modifiers and that sort of thing. So to me, it's like you want to get the most amount of practice in as possible, which means that when you're heading to rank, you want things to practice on. When you're doing your training, you want to use training mode, you want to use drills a lot, you want to be looking at your replays, you want to be doing all that shit, right? It has to be varied practice. And I'd say like I'd say the two things is like, one, make sure you're varying your practice, and specifically you're doing a lot of drills, like focus on the most important things. Two is like making sure you're watching your replays, or at least thinking about the game to understand what the most important things to work on are, so you're doing drills on the right thing. And then three, once you get those drills down, that you're actually going to the match and you're practicing the stuff and you're not like rehashing the same old shit over and over. Those are the main three things. But again, it's only EXP modifier, and make sure you're still having fun, because again, if you're not having fun, it's hard to improve. Learn how to have the right mindset. This is from Kneecaps. Oh shit, Buffalo. Shouts to Buffalo. I used to be a local there. They have great leagues, classical people up there. It's very apparent. I don't know how to learn, if that makes sense. People are so helpful, struggle to retain information. I think this is more of a people try to be helpful, but sometimes they aren't, because they people sometimes overload, right? And sometimes people will be like, here's all the shit you need to know, blurt it all out. And then it's like, well, fuck. I can't remember all of that, right? Never been a competitive person. Also lucked into the career that came easy to you. So foreign concepts for me on like how to be good. So any good resources, books that give tips on how to have the right mindset, especially when it's comes to competing in tournament rank. I feel like this comes up every few months. Art of Learning is my #1 favorite. Check that out. Really good book. Advice on how to learn, how to structure it. I feel like that book would be really good. And yeah, they are more geared towards normal sports, but I think they 100% apply. I would say, yeah, check out Art of Learning. I think that's gonna definitely apply. I think the main thing that book doesn't cover is like how to get the most out of people that are willing to help you. And it's, you have to be willing to ignore shit that you think is just way above your level or it's not something you need, and make sure you ask the right questions, which is like stuff that you're not sure of. Make sure you ask the right questions, because a lot of times, like if someone more experienced is coaching you, they won't really have the same perspective, right? So make sure it's more of a dialogue as opposed to a one person teaching, and try to ask questions on like the things that you think are difficult, right? And a lot of it's like, it's not about retaining information. Like you're at the phase where it's not really about retaining information, but it's more of like coming up with strategy and coming up with like, it's about retaining the important shit, right? And so my advice would be to like focus on what the most important shit is to retain, and ask questions around that, and focus your efforts around that. All right, holy shit, that's a long phrase. How to cope with the competitive nature of FGC. I'm struggling to play even casual matches recently. The whatever negative thoughts my opponent might have just overwhelm me, while also disrupting my flow, my mood, my enjoyment, so I can't even boot up the game. End up going for 10 minutes of practice mode without any matches. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so okay, what do you think might help? Get better, drop combos, and lack of frame that will happen. Start teabagging for fun? What? That's crazy. All right, I don't think these are the solutions. I think teabagging is not going to make you a better player. I hate to break it to you. It sounds like what you want to do is improve and grow as a player. And if you're able to do that, then I think you'll find this game more fun. But you feel stuck, and therefore you feel discouraged, and then when you try to play ranked and you feel discouraged, then you just lose more, and it's a continuous cycle, right? It happens. So what I would recommend, I think #1 is, yes, get better is really the solution, but I think you need to get better in a different direction. In particular, if you need to look inwards, right? And figure out what gives you anxiety and what gives you, lack of enjoyment. And don't do those things. You can improve in other ways, right? So you're right in the sense that like, if you really want to improve, but the things you're doing aren't improving, you're not gonna find them helpful, right? So it means you need to do other shit. I don't know what that other shit is. Maybe it's, I usually end up going in for 10 minutes of practice mode without any matches. It sounds like you need to spend a lot more than 10 minutes of practice mode. I'm gonna keep it a buck. And maybe drill so much that like when you actually go into a match, you have a lot more different things to implement. The other things I'd recommend are, 1, maybe you need to play other characters. 2, maybe you need to play other games and get different perspectives, right? Because it feels like you're stuck, and because you're stuck, you're kind of stuck in this like negative feedback loop, right? So you have to do different shit to get out of that negative feedback loop. Teabagging is different things, but yeah, that's not really gonna help. All right, anyways, next question. Industrial hygiene ergonomics. Oh shit, I love me some industrial hygiene questions. As you guys know, I have a master's degree and my certification in industrial hygiene, and it does cover ergonomics, and it's something I'm quite proficient in. I work a lot at desk, a standard mouse and keyboard, right-handed. I recently switched to mouse. It almost feels like the nerve is getting aggravated. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, this question goes pretty deep. Yes, it's something I have addressed a lot, and the main thing, it sounds like you're using your keyboard and mouse and it's causing discomfort, right? And a lot of the times people's hands are different, which means that people need different type of hardware, right? It's just like a controller in fighting games. Some people have a lot of trouble with pads. Some people have a lot of with levers, and ergonomics is about adjusting the tools for your own use, right? And so to me, it's like, try a different mouse, try a different keyboard. That's usually the #1 recommendation. And also make sure it's like, how do I say, properly done. Usually set where I don't feel as much as if I use my mouse left-handed and use a wireless keyboard. The thing is, like, laptops are generally worse ergonomic wise because you're kind of like your hands are in the worst position. I'll read this a little bit more, but yeah, the TLDR is use what's comfortable, and if it's not comfortable, play with something else. That applies to fighting games as well. Zetzi, hey Diaphone, I'm a big fan of your working personality. Can you tell me what the thought process behind perfect parry usage? 100% focus on perfect parrying. This is an easy question. Focus on perfect parrying things that are reactable. Because if it's something you can react to, then it's a lot more consistent than just guess tapping perfect parry. You can guess tap perfect parry, but it's a lot inconsistent because things will have different timings. And this is, while it's still good, this is going to get you in the right habit, right? Because if you try to time a meaty or a parry a meaty on wake up, meaties can hit at different times. It can be a lot more inconsistent as opposed to doing things on reaction. And yeah, against fireballs is really good too. And there's a lot of cool things you could do. Like if you perfect parry a fireball, you can option select the jump, and then you can, jump before another fireball hits. There's some really cool shit you can do. But yeah, anything you can react to is mainly where you want to start with parry. Hey, what's up, Fa? I have a quick question about when the defender blocks at crouch medium kick drive rush. The OS is to do EXDP as a defender. Everyone just says when the opponent turns green, input it. How much priority do you give to your mental stack to input this successfully? Because I was under the impression you should do it every time versus drive rush, but it seems so hard to do. 100%. Yeah, this is really hard to do. I play characters without DP. I don't do it at all. Even when I do play a character that has the DP, I think it's really tough. I play a lot of people. Most of the time, it's unless they're like legend ranked, like this is like a legend rank exclusive thing, they're not doing it because I just assume they're not going to do it. It's very, very hard, and because it requires so much mental stack, it basically requires you to be like literally only looking for the drive rush. I recommend something you don't really prioritize. That being said, like if you can get to muscle memory, just like an anti-air is muscle memory, then I'd say go for it, right? But it's, again, I think it's lower priority just because like even like a lot of times, like a lot of people like will do crouch medium kick, drive rush, jab, and that's what you block string, and the OS won't even work. You'll just block, right? So it's like most of the time, it's not really that big of a deal. And if you notice they constantly go for loose shit, then you can start doing it more, and you can like focus more of your efforts. But like as a default response, it is really hard to implement. Africane, what is up? A mind control player, and people don't believe me when I tell Street Fighter 6 my first fighting game. Congrats on 4 characters in mastering. That's awesome. Despite that, I realized how much I still need to improve. I dropped from 1500 to 1280 MR recently. So okay, you got to master. It's not like you were a 1500 player. You got to 1500, you dropped to 1280. Just to be clear, that's probably the case, or the season went on longer and the tiers became more stratified, right? So I doubt you're getting worse. I mentioned this before, maybe you didn't believe me either. I'm bad at defense. I struggle to know when I take my turn. Terry Booger's out, Diamond 5, aim for master. This time I really want to focus on defending properly and knowing when it's my turn instead of just guessing when I'm plus or minus. I guess it'd be great if you could check out some of my replays. So this is not a replay thing, but I will say the #1 thing you can do is watch your own replays, and Street Fighter 6 literally tells you the frame data, right? And anytime it's minus, it means it's your turn. Now there's obviously like a meta of, there is a little bit of guessing. right? I think that's the main thing I kind of picked up on from this paragraph is like there is guessing on defense even on minus, right? So like let's say you block jab 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 from like a character like Ken, you have to guess whether they're gonna cancel that jab into something, which will frame trap your button, or they're just gonna like be minus, right? And they might take their turn with like a crouch medium kick, right? Which can be interrupted. So there is still guessing. That guessing's always gonna exist, even in Street Fighter 6, even when they're minus, right? Because let's say it's something non-cancelable, like DJ, just cool low, right? They might perfect parry after you check, they perfect parry, you die. So there is guessing even on minus. So part of it's like you need to make sure you're rotating the right options, which is like, okay, sometimes on minus I block, sometimes on minus like I walk up throw, etc. Right? And other than that, if it's just luring shit, the best thing I can do is teach a fisher how to fish, right? Not watch a replay and be like, hey, this is ABC is what you're not blocking, because that will help for a matchup, but that's not going to help in the long run, right? So to me, it's you gotta block. And one is just like block and then watch the replay. The other thing you can do is block and notice what the opponent does after, right? And if they're choosing defensive options, like if they're backing off or they're just blocking or they're trying to tap parry, chances are it's your turn, right? So just sitting there and waiting and seeing what the opponent does and recognizing that like if it's their turn, this isn't any game, right? Like if it's in Grand Blue and you block something negative and they're just sitting there, or you block something and they're just sitting there, almost certainly it's minus, right? So that means you can start to take your turn in the future. So like just by understanding that, you can get a better feel for like what's actually minus and what's plus. And there's replay takeover, that's true. Yeah, no excuse now. You don't need me. Frog! I've been trying to practice my whiff punishment recently, and training mode has been great for practicing forcing a whiff punish at certain ranges. Sure. My problem emerges with trying actual matches. Yeah, sure. Whiff punishes. Okay. All right. So I think the first thing, so the number one key of whiff punishing, a lot of people think you just have to have crack reactions, right? If this is a really common misconception, you need two things when it comes to whiff punishing. It's not reactions. It's one, it's knowledge of the game to understand how far certain things go, and two, understanding your opponent to understand what they want to go for, right? And if you can't understand what the opponent wants to do, it's very, very, very hard to whiff punish, right? Because you're just looking for anything. If you look for anything, you'll get caught flinching, and then you're just gonna die, right? So the main thing I would say is like, yeah, like I don't know what rank you are, but if you're not master rank yet, don't focus on whiff punishing, because it's a lot easier to anticipate stuff that's reactionary, like DI, anti-air, drive rush, as opposed to specific buttons, right? If you are a master, they're gonna be whiffing something. They might not whiff the same buttons as you, but they're gonna be whiffing something, right? And so like just try to like generically whiff punish stuff, and then if they're not whiffing, then bro, just like go the fuck in. Like then just play, you're gonna instantly win footsies. Another thing to keep in mind, like if they're not whiffing, a trick you can do is like walk forward into that button range and then walk out, because if you're constantly staying out of that range, then they'll purposely like never hit that thing. So all right, cool. Short ass Diaphone today. I kind of sped run this because I was worried I wouldn't get to anything. Pears are not gross, don't listen to this. And oh, I haven't covered this. I somehow skipped Nuji's. I've been in the My Palace. I think Geef is the answer to Aki's bad matchup. Thoughts? I've been to My Palace. I'm thinking about miserable matchups for Aki, like Cammy, Akuma, Bison. I hate these matchups too. I think it's pretty agreed that Geef is good against Cammy, Akuma. I definitely think against Cammy, Akuma is a little bit more debatable, but I wasn't sure about Bison. I found that Lariat's so good at reacting to Devil's Rise. What do you think? I forgot mana. Yeah. What do you think? I think the answer to Aki's bad matchups are just the gap, to be honest. I think Aki's too complex of a character to play more than one character at a time. At a high level, right? Especially because in Street Fighter 6, you either have to be like really, really good, like Bendo level, to like play multiple characters, so like your Twitch reactions to certain things don't matter, right? Or you just have to get really, really good with like a certain character. I think Aki is such a high investment character compared to most of the cast. I think it's really tough to do this. I think in theory it works. I think if we were on this patch for like another 2 years, I think it would make sense to invest in a side character. Right now, I don't know, because if you look at like the vast majority of the people, they only have one character, unless they're like someone simple that you can play more than one character at a time, or they're just cracked, right? So I think it's tough. I think it's tough to really say. I think games that have less skill depth and it's easier to pick up a character, like Mortal Kombat, or there's things that overlap more, like maybe Mortal Kombat or even Grand Blue, I think it's easier to pick up more than one character. I think Street Fighter, just because of like how character specific reactions are, right? So like if someone drive rushes at you, you need the muscle memory for Aki to press something like stand medium punch instead of crouch medium punch. But if you're playing like Luke or I don't know, Terry, you want to do the opposite, right? And same thing with anti-airs, right? Like that shit has to be so muscle memory, and if you get your anti-airs confused on a character, you fuck it up. I don't know. I think it's tough. I think it's honestly really tough. I don't think it hurts. I think different people have different play styles, and I think side characters can help. But I think Street Fighter 6 is just it's a tough character to do it, because you have to have so much of your muscle memory on autopilot, right? Compared to a lot of games, because it's a really fast-paced game. But it's kind of hard to say. I think this is something, if you're really good at that kind of thing and you're good at playing multiple characters without confusing the muscle memory, then I think you should abuse that. It's not something I'm amazing at, so it's not something I particularly do. Cool. All right, that's actually the end of the Ask Diaphone. Again, drop your questions in the Discord. I feel like I'm still missing. So why does it say one new? Why does it say one new? Oh, bro, you literally did this one. No, that's cheating, bro. That's cheating. All right, fuck it. Hey, Diaphone, I want to be competitive with Street Fighter 6. 607 hours in the game. I hit Masters. I struggle to stay at 1500 MR. I feel like that's pretty average, right? Feels like my play is super inconsistent. I know I need to change the way I play, but the changes I try don't seem to stick. Odd feeling, I can't quite explain it, was completely... All right, so this is another Plateau question, right? So if you're Plateau, you need to do different shit. The other thing is, like, if you're making changes and they're not sticking, it's either two things. One, you're making bad changes and you need to like ask outside of like ask people what you need to change specifically, or you're like trying to make the change, you recognize you're losing at first and then you give up halfway, which most like high level changes you're making to your gameplay, it's usually one step back, two steps forward, right? So it's definitely something you have to slowly implement. So I don't know which one you're at. I definitely think if you're afraid to implement change, it's gonna be really hard to progress. I think you can short circumvent that by like luring new characters and that sort of thing and getting a fresh perspective on stuff. But yeah, usually if your time's not amounting to shit, try different shit. Also, you have to recognize that you're kind of in the realm of diminishing returns, right? Once you get 1500, 16, everyone gets really sweaty. It usually takes like an average of like 100, 200 hours just to progress 100 MR if you look at the charts. So yeah, are you actually at a plateau? Probably not, because 600, 700 hours at 1500 if you're new to fighting games seems completely reasonable. But can you make it more efficient? Probably, by doing some of the stuff we talked about. All right, that's for real the end. Like, just subscribe, take care, y'all, and peace.